when we met for coffee, he was like, what do you want to know? This fucker whips out his like Excel spreadsheets, line item by line item.
Oh my god!
For like the last 4 years.
Okay.
This property is actually for sale, and it is used on Airbnb. There is no logical reason not to do this. I'm just weirdly scared.
Welcome to the Art of B&B podcast, where we talk about Airbnb and life for a long time. Today's guest is John Thiesing. He is an incredible host. He also has a PhD in math. He is an avid runner. He also has 2 beautiful daughters and an amazing wife, and still finds time to manage his Airbnb, as well as looking to grow his portfolio. We're sitting down today to talk about his journey, his story as an Airbnb host, and I'm really excited to have him as my very first guest. He's also usually the man behind the camera, so today he's come on the other side, and I'm excited to have him. So with that being said, let's hop right into it. John, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's nice to get out and film. I feel like we didn't have as much success interviewing people on campus. I thought people would be like interested in talking to us.
Dude, me too.
And they were like, no, I've never thought of Airbnb. And you're like, why not? And they're like, I don't have enough time, as they're walking away.
Yeah, they just weren't having it. So for those of you listening, we went to the OSU campus here in Columbus. Also, we're staying in this beautiful Airbnb right now called the Book Loft. If you guys are ever in Columbus, check it out. You can go to junglehouse.com. You can find this one. It's incredible. But we went to OSU to kind of talk to some of the students about Airbnb. We thought we'd go to like the business building to see if anybody would be interested. There was this really cool Brazilian man that was like excited to talk about Airbnb for bringing people from Brazil to come stay here, so you could kind of open more doors for more opportunities for the people that are coming. But yeah, overall it was just not a success going down there. But we're sitting down here in the Airbnb we got for the next few hours. John, walk us through, just to kind of start us off here, what made you decide to get into Airbnb? I know for a lot of people it's different financial stuff, and that's obviously why most people get into it. But what's the second layer? Because it's like, obviously we're doing it for the finances, but what's that next level of freedom that the finance is going to get you?
Yeah, so our story is an interesting one. In about 2017, 2018, so that would have been like 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was just becoming a little more interested in passive income in general, like not necessarily just through real estate, but like, hey, what are ways where I could make passive income? And like one of the ones that I'm still kind of looking into is maybe ATM machines. Yeah, like just owning ATM machines and then refilling them, and you get like a $3, $2 surcharge every time somebody uses it. And I've always thought, do people ever use those? But every gas station I've gone into, I ask them, they're like, oh yeah, people use this all the time. Like 4 people just used it like in the last hour. I was like, wow.
Yeah, 100 people a day for $2, $3 transaction fee, that's $300 a day. I mean, you have 10 of those, that's $3,000 a day.
Right.
That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like looking into that stuff, and then I started listening to different podcasts, like the Bigger Pockets podcast is really good. And it just kind of fascinated me, the idea that there's enough value out there and you can create experiences and value for people through business or service or selling goods and stuff like that to make a significant amount of money. Like I'm just a high school math teacher, and I work in one of the best districts in Ohio, and it's a pretty good job. And I was like, wait, you could make how much? Just with one property. And so I started listening to podcasts, and then I started collaborating with people. And then when did we meet? Like COVID? Like 2020?
2020, yeah.
I say meet, it's like...
Yeah, you joined the Facebook group, and then we hopped on initially it was like a sales call for like my mentorship.
Yeah.
And you're like, just not right now. And then 6 months later you hit me up and you're like, hey, I actually do want to do it, but I want to buy instead of renting through rent arbitrage. And I was like, yeah, if you want to go that route, that works too. And then you got the one at the lake house, which is pretty nice.
And then we bartered some video and your entire curriculum that I wolfed down in 2 days, on vacation.
Yeah, it's funny because I can always see who when people go through the content. Oh yeah, because I can see inside the program. So it's people are watching the videos I have in there, and it's 10 hours, and they're just you were just whoop, just watched. So it's oh, this guy's serious.
Yeah, I literally knocked it out in 2 days, I think.
Nice.
while we were at like Kalahari or Great Wolf Lodge or whatever, and the girls were just sitting there,
Yeah,
and I was like
remember.
listening to it on 1.5 speed.
You sent me like a screenshot. Dude, 1.5 speed, like anything like that I'm consuming content anymore, I'm just like, if I was listening to this podcast right now, it would be on like 2x.
Yeah.
Like just because it's like, it goes so much quicker.
Yeah, if you guys aren't on 1.5x,
Yeah, highly
like,
recommend it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's
Like-
much more exciting. We sound really excited because we're just kind of like at peace right now, but it just goes.
Yeah. So anyway, we were looking to have it serve two purposes for us, like the Airbnb that we currently have, and we were looking for a place at a lake where we could go up ourselves, but then also rent it out to offset the cost. And we were thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if this just paid for itself? Like if it paid for the mortgage and the utilities and we just broke even like every month in perpetuity, you know? And so then I started like crunching numbers and I was like, I think it might actually make a little bit of money. And then I reached out to somebody in the area who does Airbnb, who's a real estate agent. Shout out Sean. And I just called him up one day, just cold called him, like through his real estate office, and was like, "Hi, is this Sean Greenwood?" He was like, "Yes." And I was like, "I don't know how to say this. I was on Airbnb." It was like so awkward. I like stumbled through it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, I mean, we got to talking, and he was like, "Hold on, how did you find me?" And I was like, "You have like 4 really nice properties at the lake, and you're a super host, and I love your properties."
Wait. So hold on. I'm gonna pause you there one second.
Yeah.
How did you find him? Because on Airbnb you can't see their last name.
Right.
How did you find him just from his first name and his listing?
So I'm not at liberty to discuss. No. He in his profile, I think, wrote like that he was a real estate agent out of Dublin, and so I kind of like did some digging. Gotcha. And I might have also, I don't remember what I did, because you don't have the exact address of the Airbnb. I'm like, I might have just looked him up on the auditor's website, you know? Yeah, and we didn't book it. So I think it was in his profile. So I just cold called him, reached out, and was like, would you be willing to represent us, like, and help us purchase a property out there? Like, do you want competition? I feel like you wouldn't want to do this, but I figured I would give it a shot, you know? Like the worst thing that could happen is you say no, and I'm where I am. You know.
I love that. It's because like so many people are like, it's like they're kind of like guarding. It's like they found the treasure, the gold. Yeah. And they're like, this is my Airbnb market. But it's like no, like there's plenty of abundance, and like people are just traveling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's what he said. He was like, no, there, and literally his words were, "There's plenty to go around."
Nice.
Like I don't feel like you're gonna take away my business.
That's
you know?
awesome.
And he's amazing, like super helpful. He was really upfront with us about some of the properties we looked at. We actually put an offer in on one, and then the inspection came back, and it might have needed anywhere from like $30,000 to $100,000 of work, and we were like, maybe not, you know. It was a pretty cheap property. I think it was like $98,000 or something like that. But we were like, maybe not our first one, you know. Maybe when we figure it out later, we can do that. So
what was the total cost of the house? How much did you have to put down on it? How much did you put into it? And then what's your mortgage?
Yeah, good question. So we purchased, so another like funny little tidbit about the house, and then I'll answer that question. So we're looking on like Zillow, Redfin, like anything that hits the MLS, you know, I'm looking. He'll text me every once in a while like, hey, did you see this one? And I was always like, yes, I've already looked at it, you know.
Nice.
There was one that he sent me that was on the island that was like $195,000, and it was like 2-bedroom, 1 bath, only 720 square feet.
When you say on the island, it's like there's the lake, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a little island within.
Yeah, so at Indian Lake, we're at Indian Lake in Ohio. It's like an hour west of Columbus. And basically we're looking around, like there's a little island that comes out right in the middle of the lake. And there's a bridge. You don't have to like take a boat or anything. Yeah. That'd be crazy. But so you just drive over the bridge and then you're at the island. And so it was like $195, which felt pretty pricey for like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. That seemed like about right for a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. Yeah. Based off of like my research and everything I'd done. And he was like, did you see this one? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of ugly and like, And he was like, well, I hear you. Like my island property is the best cash flowing piece of real estate I've ever owned. Like, and he owns several properties. And yeah, so he was like, you know, think about it. And then the next day it dropped like 15 or 20 grand.
Oh shit.
Like the listing, and it hadn't had any bites for like 7 or 8 days. So we inquired, we were like, you know, reach out to the agent, like have they had any offers? And they were like, no offers. And I was like, all right, let's go check it out. So yeah, so we went and looked at it, and it needed a lot of work, but it was in pretty good shape. Like overall, it wasn't terrible. The more we got into it, the more we were like, oh, this needs replaced, and this needs replaced, and the roof is like, you know, struggling. And then there was a really crazy storm, and luckily the insurance claim covered that. But anyway, so we ended up offering $165 for it. It was listed at like $175, I think. It came down from like $190 or $195 or whatever. And then they countered, and we countered, and we settled at $170. And then the inspection came in, and there was like standing water in the crawl space, and we got like another $2,000 seller credit on that. So like all in, we got it for like $168 basically. Okay. Effectively. The purchase price is $170 on the auditor's website. But so we did that as a second home. So it's a second home for us. Like we qualified for a second home. We didn't have to do like an investment loan, which is like 20% down, and the interest rates are even higher for that. So we put 10% down, so $17,000, and then we put a lot of work into it. When I'd have to pull up my Excel spreadsheet for it, but when I look at the expenses for last year, and this is everything, mileage, depreciation, capital improvements, real property, you know, like appliances, flooring, labor, all that stuff. I think our total is like $65,000 that we ended up putting into it. Yeah, so it was a sizable amount. And, you know, in hindsight, I now know what to look for like in our next property. And I'm not like salty about it at all, because it's doing really well for us now. And yeah, we're recouping a lot of that. We've almost, within the next like 15 months, I think we'll pay down our home equity line of credit that we took out, which was like $30,000 roughly. So yeah, and we just bought it in March of 2022, and right now it's June of 23, so like 15 months. Yeah. Okay.
I want to pause you there for a second. So something that I'm curious about, but I think the listeners will be as well, is we went from 20% to 10%, because most people, when they're thinking a real estate investment, they're like, oh, man, like I gotta put a fuck ton of money down just to get this place, like to get an Airbnb, right? That's why I go the rental arbitrage route, because it's like I can put a fifth of that. But you went from 20% to 10% because you're ready to do it as a second home loan.
Yeah.
What made you qualify that, and what made you decide to go that route?
Yeah, so like
that's fucking awesome.
Most people probably wouldn't be able to do that unless you were in that specific category we were, where it's like the property has to be at least 65 miles away, I think. And on Google Maps, like no joke, I think it's like 66.3 miles.
Oh, fuck.
away.
Nice.
So I'm like looking it up, and I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna qualify. Like if we buy a place that's like a mile and a half down the road, like we wouldn't qualify.
So it has to be
it has to be a certain number of miles away.
So could it be just away?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you said within distance, within 65 miles.
No, it has to be at least 65 miles.
Oh, I see. Okay.
For like to qualify as a second home.
Yeah.
Like for a lender. It's all about the lender, like the person giving you the loan for the house, right? They want to see like, is this like an investment property? Is this just your second vacation home?
Yeah.
And we like checked all the boxes for a vacation home. And it wasn't like shady or anything. Like we went through, and I talked with the broker. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm planning on doing. We will also use it as a vacation home. And
I know you went out there a couple times.
That's totally fine. Yeah. So we got 10% down. We put a lot into it. We put a lot of work ourselves into it, a lot of labor. And our mortgage now is like $1,130 a month. And utilities are like probably $285 a month on average.
Okay. So you're probably about $1,400.
It feels like about $1,400 every month, I think, is that. Yeah. And then, you know, we pay a kid down the street to mow the lawn for us, you know, like $22 a week. So.
Nice, that teenage labor.
Yes. Oh, it's fantastic. So, and he loves it. You know, I think he's like 13 years old now, so it works out really well.
He's gonna pay for his Fortnite skins.
Yes,
so.
literally. Yeah. So.
Okay. So you said about 60,000 into the property after
Yep.
After the down payment plus the improvements and stuff like that. What are you bringing in monthly? Because your overhead's about 14. What are you bringing in monthly from Airbnb?
Yeah, so I guess I'd have to like do the math here. So last year our gross revenue websites, Vrbo, Airbnb, we got some direct
Were
bookings
you up
too.
all 12 months?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I did it from like Memorial Day 2022 to Memorial Day 2023.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so we grossed 32,700. So, and our cleaners were probably 5,000 maybe.
Sounds about right.
So let's do the math on that. So 32,700 minus, let's call it 5,500, minus 500 for the lawn care and all that fun stuff. So that's 26,700. Is that operating income? I think they call it after you take out all those things. So that comes out to 22.25 per month on average. You know, the summers do a lot better for us because it's a lake house. But yeah, so 22.25. And I asked my broker for our loan. I said, hey, when we buy a property in the future, what will this look like? And I gave him my tax returns. I'm like, what will you see? Like, in your eyes, how much is this making? And he said about $850, $900 a month, which, you know, if you take $1,400 off that, it's $825. So yeah, so we cash flow
right on spot
about $800 or $900 a month. Yeah, and it's just been great, man. If I had known it would have gone this well, I would have done it so much sooner. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
I'm
what
like,
most people
oh
say.
my
Like,
gosh.
why did I wait so long?
Yeah, and I would listen to people on podcasts talk, you know, they're like, what advice do you have for people who are just getting started?
Yeah.
It's like, you have to just do it. It is terrifying.
Oh,
You're
it's
like, you're
so
on
scary.
the high dive and like, well, how do I jump in the water? Like, stop studying physics.
Yeah.
Like, just jump.
Just do it.
Like, just do it. You have to just do it.
That's how it was when I was getting my first one. I was like, dude, I don't know. And I contemplated for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, at the time, I only had like 10 grand, and it was just through rent arbitrage.
Yeah.
But it was like, that was all the 10 grand I had.
Yeah.
I just quit my job, and I was just going for it. So, it's okay. So you're making like $850 a month, which is, you know, pretty solid.
Yeah.
I know. One, I want to compliment you because I think you are great at your time management. So you work a full-time job at the school. I think you're a great dad. Like, I love times when I'm texting you and you're like, all right, I gotta go spend time with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, cut me the fuck off. Go
Yeah.
spend time with your daughters. So like, I love that.
Yeah.
So I just want to compliment you on being a good dad. So I think that's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. How do you go about managing your Airbnb? Because obviously, when people are thinking about getting an Airbnb, they're like, man, like 2 hours away, an hour away, like 30 minutes away. Like this lake house is an hour away.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that like something catastrophic could happen. But they'll never be able to like take care of it. But you being an hour away, how do you manage it? How many hours a week do you think you spend managing it?
This is what surprised me the most, other than like how much people rent lake houses on Airbnb. I'm like, I don't do that, but I guess there are thousands of people out there who do it because there are like 100 properties at the lake. Mm-hmm. It's pretty minimal. And granted, we have replaced a lot of things at the lake house. So like we always like joke, like knock on wood, there really isn't much else that can break at this point. Like we've done the roof, we've done the floors, we have done a lot of the bathroom. Like we got a new toilet, new washer dryer, we put in a new sink in the bathroom, we put in new countertops, new microwave. We just had to replace that one.
New foundations coming next.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, I still have to insulate the crawl space. That's like my next thing that I'm like dreading doing. I have to. There's like 18 inches of clearance there, and I'm just like, oh god, I have to like crawl under there. And
everybody loves crawling in a dark, moldy hole.
Yeah. Luckily, there's not much mold down there, which is interesting. But anyway, managing is surprisingly simple. It's hard to like quantify. I would bet you that we, on average, spend less than an hour a week.
Wow.
Managing. And when I say managing, I really mean just the day-to-day tasks of like texting the cleaner. And we could actually automate a lot more than we do. You keep telling me like, you should get Turno.
Dude, Airbnb is goated. Like Airbnb lets you pay your cleaners, manage your cleaners, like sends the money automatically to them. It like tells you when they get there. It lets you do your checklist of like things that they're missing, your stock. Like it's so good.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Turnover. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Turnover B&B, hit me with a sponsor.
Yeah. Come sponsor us.
They actually changed their name recently to Turno.
Yeah.
And I think it's terrible. I think it's a terrible name. I think they should go back to Turnover B&B.
Yeah.
I think it was a perfect name before.
Yeah.
So you said it takes about an hour today, hour a week to
honestly, I mean, like that might be much overstated.
Yeah.
Because literally for us, it's a matter of when somebody books, we have an automatic message that gets sent to them like, hey, insert your first name. Like, we're really looking forward to hosting you. We'll send the check-in instructions. It's literally the thing that you gave me. And it auto sends that to them. It auto sends them the message the night before they check in. It auto sends them the message the day before they check out. That's like, hey, here's like all the checkout instructions. I mean, there are some times where literally my phone goes off or my watch goes off and it's like, text the cleaner how many towels they should do on the flip today because the property's getting flipped. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like I have an Airbnb.
You just forget about it.
Like you literally forget about it. And we only have one, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, we'll go through like 3 or 4 weeks where literally the only stuff we do is text a guest maybe once or twice. Some guests, I don't know about you, but like most guests, I like never hear from.
Dude, me either. Like there's guests that's like literally like they book, they don't send a message to me. So then I just send them a message and it's automated. So I'm like, I don't physically send it. Automated message followed by second automated message of like, hey, I hope you're excited for your stay. Tomorrow's check-in, here's the codes. After they check in, like a little like, hey, hope you check-in went well, boom. And then the night before checkout. But it's like, sometimes they don't even reply to me. And then it's just like, okay, cool.
Are we good? And then they leave a 5-star review.
And then they leave a 5-star and you're like, they're like, this place is awesome, definitely coming back. I'm like, all right, cool, I guess I had fun. So yeah, a lot of people see it as like, I guess like when you're getting like an email from like, I don't know, like say I'm getting like a Target email or something like that. Like I just look at it, but I'm not like, it doesn't like click for me to respond to it. So but yeah, I mean it's so cool the things you can automate. I remember like when I read the 4-Hour Work Week and like 21 and like when I was 21, so like 2016, I was like, dude, this is the life. And like I tried so many different things to like try and get to that 4-hour work week, and it's like the first time in my life where I'm like, shit, I really can just work 4 hours a week or 5 hours a week on that business, right? And the idea is like to automate it so you can focus on other things. Yeah. Because the idea isn't to like just have lull time, right? Yeah. Because it's like if you can get the finances up there, and it's like if you make 10 grand a month and you only have to work, I don't know, 5 hours a week, like that is huge. But it's also you have to like do other things with your time. That was a big thing for me actually when I first got started. Is I would I kind of automated the process just right from the beginning. So it's like I had the cleaner, or sorry, I didn't have the cleaner. I had like all the messages and everything like that. Yeah. And then I was like, wow, like I really am only working 5 hours a week, and I'm making like $1,000 a month. And I was like, what do I do with the rest of my time? Because it's like you go from like that hustle mindset of like getting everything together, and it's like because the first like the initial setup, as you know, is just so much to get it set up. But then afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, really, truly, once you get going, it's shocking how little effort it takes. Like I'm convinced, and I asked our real estate agent who owns 4 or 5 properties up there, I'm like, dude, it's got to be a lot of work for you. He's like, no. I'm like, what do you do for work other than this? He's like, not much. Yeah. Like I sell houses. Yeah. I'm like, what? Dude. Yeah. So, and he like brokered a deal with like a poker room in town. And so, yeah, I mean like all the cash flow he makes from like those investment properties, and he has some long-term rentals too. He doesn't just do short-term rental, but yeah, he does. He doesn't have to work a ton and can really, I just want to say on your comment there, it's about leveraging your time. Like if that's what you want to do, then real estate's a great way to do that, right?
Oh,
and Airbnb or arbitrage or whatever. You know, it's like if you want, it's possible. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and you're not just going to sit around and play League of Legends all day or Fortnite. You know, it's like you and I are like that. We actually enjoy working. You know? Like this is not a chore for us. Like we enjoy this. Like we'll finish up with this and feel like energized.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Let's go. What are we going to tackle next?
I was feeling tired before this interview started, and then like now I'm like, oh
Yeah, you were struggling.
I was getting to a lull. That 4 hours of sleep was getting to me. And I was
Yeah.
like, So I know when a lot of people are looking to get started with Airbnb, they're thinking like, okay, I need to be in a vacation spot, right? I need to be in like Florida, or I need to be in like Los Angeles, or I need to be like somewhere beautiful in the mountains. You've got a lake house, which, lake house is really nice, but it's also like in the middle of Ohio. How did that work for you? Like, did you have a fear? Like, let's talk about some of the fears that you had when you got started. Like, what were some of the fears initially when you got started? Like the fear of like, oh, is this actually going to work out here? Walk us through those fears.
It is a little scary when you get started. Like Indian Lake is out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
Yeah. What do you think was going to happen? Were you just like, I'm going to buy this fucking house. No one's going to book it. Like, I'm going to be so fucked. Like, what's kind of the...
You have to, like, consider scenarios like that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to really ask yourself, if this books for, like, 20 nights a year, can I eat this entire mortgage?
Yeah.
And we were at a place financially where we actually could eat that mortgage. It would have been a little tight. But we were like, if this thing just totally underperforms, then we'll use it a bunch, and our friends can use it a bunch, and we'll be able to do that. So, but it wasn't that bad. Honestly, the worst part is that there's not a Home Depot for like 35 miles. There's a Lowe's that's like 23 minutes away. 23, that's really exact, John. Yeah, I've driven it a lot. But
you'd be knowing.
Yeah, so, and there's like a little hardware store that's there. But I actually did quite a bit of research. And I know you and I have talked about this some in the past of like, how can you actually research to see if a place will do well? I had the added benefit of, and I didn't even get like Air Labs or Price Labs, Air DNA, whatever.
Yeah,
I think I was about to mix them up. We've never used that. My sister does at the lake, and I've looked at some of the stats on it. But I literally just asked our real estate agent.
Yeah, the insider.
He actually offered his books.
Wow.
Like when we met for coffee, he was like, "What do you want to know?" And I was like, well, I just kind of want to know about what it's like to have a house up there. Like, do you make any money? Do you break even? Like, are you just trying to build equity and appreciation in the properties? He was like, oh, yeah, I can show you. This fucker whips out his, like, Excel spreadsheets, line item by line item.
Oh, my God.
For, like, the last 4 years.
Dude.
And I can just query it.
Yeah.
I can be like...
Your mouth is, like, salivating.
Yeah, like, as a mathematician, I'm just like... Oh. Yeah.
Dude, I love it when people are just super transparent about their numbers. Like, that's my...
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, like, I love that. It's like, show me the actual stuff. Because I feel like so many people, like, talk the talk, but until it's like you walk the walk and like you can actually like, hey, this is what I'm making, these are the exact numbers. Like, that's what I always try to do with like whenever I'm trying to talk like anybody into doing Airbnb. I'm like, look, it's fucking working, go do it.
Yeah, so. I was shocked. I mean, this is literally the first time we met at Panera in Worthington, Ohio.
Man.
He's like, yeah, what do you want to know?
You're
and I'm like,
chicken noodle soup.
And I'm just like, I can know anything. Like, I just feel like I picked up Thor's hammer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, we looked over it, and the moment that I knew we were in was when he showed me, like, his 4 properties, like, how much he made per month.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, my gosh.
He's got, like all 2 bedrooms, right?
Some 3s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, that's amazing. So, like, that's your net profit on your 4 properties. He was like, no, that's one of the properties. And I was like, like if that was all 4 properties, I would have been in. Yeah. But it was like, this is just our one, and this is the one that does the best, you know? So I showed you that one first, but it's just this like little 2-bedroom. He's like, yeah, we picked it up for like, I don't know, around 100,000 like 5 years ago. And that thing is the best cash flowing piece of real estate I've ever owned. So
that's awesome.
That we had that advantage. So he was really open and willing to share the numbers. But you know, it's like some of the stuff we talked about, like your course talks about, you know, how can you reasonably estimate how much a place could make on Airbnb?
Yep.
Those numbers are like fairly accurate. And I would say as a caveat, my sister got Pricing Labs or Air DNA or one of those. And she pulled it up for our region, and it actually had a thing for our property. Like, it noticed that we were on Airbnb, and it, like, gave an estimate of things. And I laughed. I was like...
Were they on? Were they off?
They were off. Under.
Really?
They were like, yeah, this place probably makes, like, $25,000 a year. And I was like...
JK.
Yeah, that's all we make. We don't make that much. Don't get into Airbnb around here.
Yeah. That's how I feel about AirDNA. I've looked at it a couple times, and every time it's been inaccurate. I've looked at it multiple times. Like looked at it when I very first started. I looked at it like 2 years after I started. I looked at it like a year ago, and it's just like still, it just is not. I don't feel like it's up to par with things. So
yeah,
whenever I ran the numbers, it was like one time it said I was making just like crazy inflated numbers. I'm like, I wish I was making $6,000 on a 1-bedroom. Like that would be incredible.
I mean, come on. Yeah. It's like literally, where do you get these numbers? Because it's an algorithm somewhere. It's not like it's just out of nowhere. But you're like, what did the programmers tell this program to do for this town? Because it's not correct.
Exactly. Because they're just pulling data from the website. Because they can get, like, they have the APIs connected.
Yeah.
And so they're just getting all the data from Airbnb.
Yeah.
But my biggest trouble with AirDNA is it doesn't quantify design. Like design and pictures are so important. And it's like you could have like places that are right next to each other and it doesn't take into account like what the places actually look like. So that's a big thing. I'm not sure if it takes in reviews. I'm sure it does, and like Superhost and stuff like that. But like whenever I'm doing my Airbnb research, I'm like filter for 4 guests minimum, because that's what all properties should have. It should sleep at least 4. Then I do Superhost. And then it kind of cuts down from there. My favorite thing to do is like the number at the top that says like number of listings like in a city is I cut that down as much as I can. I imagine like I'm a guy with an axe and I'm just chopping down that number.
Yeah.
And it's like with our large property that we just got, like I was looking at the Columbus market the other day, and it's like in Columbus there's only 35. So first overall in Columbus there's like 1,000 Airbnbs.
Columbus, Ohio.
1,000 Airbnbs, but there's only 35 Airbnbs when I looked in Columbus that are in like 2 miles of downtown, like if you drew a circle, and that could sleep 16 or more people, and we're a Superhost. So if I were a Superhost, which I am, and you are as well, and
if I was a Superhost,
and I was sleeping 16 people in Columbus, instead of me having to compete against all 100 other people or the 400 1-bedrooms or the 400 2-bedrooms that are here in Columbus, I'm competing against the other people that can only sleep 16 people. And it's like, if I can outcompete 35 other people versus trying to outcompete another 900 people, it makes my life so much easier. So that's kind of like the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where my focus has been with larger properties as well.
Yeah. So. And what's nice here is that whether you're aiming for that strategy or our strategy of buying a little dinky lake house that rents out and is just a cash cow.
Yeah.
If you run your listing well and you have good pictures and you make it clean and guests have a good experience, I think you'll do pretty well. You talk about like you'll be a Superhost as if it's like something magical, which it is. Yeah. But when you said that, I was like, wait, is not everybody a Superhost? And then it's like, well, go search an area. Like there are a lot of people that just have a 4.53. And you're like, oh, if I was on Amazon, 4.53 stars is pretty good. It's like, not Airbnb.
Not Airbnb, no. So it's like cutthroat, dude. It's like 4.8 is like, I think, 4.8 is the cutoff for Superhost.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and 4.8 means, like mathematically, I figured it out one day. You have to get 4
out of 5
5-star reviews
for
every single 4-star review, and never get like 3, 2, or 1 ever.
You're getting a 3, 2, or 1. It's like you're getting shot. Like, yeah. You gotta really like. I've gotten to the point where it's like if something goes wrong, and my guest is staying there, I'm like just give them money. Yeah. So they'll be happy to give us a 5-star.
Yeah.
Because it's like if it means like we had something happen the other day at one of our large properties. Their booking was for like $2,000, and I forget what it was. Like something just wasn't working in the house, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you $200. Lunch is on me. Go get a really nice lunch. And then in her review, she was like, they took care of everything. They even sent me a nice little refund to take care of the stuff. And I was like, 5 stars, let's go.
Yeah.
Because like it's a new property.
Yeah.
And if say you were to get like within your first 10 reviews, I mean you're getting anything less than a 5-star, like that hurts.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're just working uphill from there. Like I can eat a 4-star now on some of my properties. but like.
Oh man, the first one we got, I still remember.
It hurts.
There was a cockroach, and I'm like, I don't even blame you, you
Yeah.
know? But like, what am I gonna do? I can't prevent a cockroach from
a
just
single bug from
getting in and walking around, you know?
For sure.
Maybe I can hermetically seal every single bedroom, but it's what are you gonna do? So, but we're doing really well now. I think we're at like floating around 4.9, 4.8.
Nice.
6, somewhere around there. So
we'll put your listing up here in the video so people can see it.
Yeah.
And then we'll also put it in the description for the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
What so you've got this one. You're spending an hour a week doing it, and
Maybe.
You're making $800 give or take a month passively.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's only cash flow too. And I feel like I hate to interrupt you, but that is only cash flow.
Yeah.
Like we make just as much, if not more, if you think about like the appreciation of the property and the pay down of the mortgage.
Oh yeah.
Like the mortgage, I was saying this is $1,100 a month. Like $200 a month right now goes toward the principal. You know, 15 years from now, if I'm still paying it off, that's going to be a lot more. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you just look at the appreciation for a property like that. I think a lot of people just want cash flow.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the Midwest, so like we cash flow pretty well historically. But if you guys are somewhere else listening, you know, like realize that you might not cash flow a lot, but there are other strategies where you're just riding, 4% property appreciation, forever. So yeah, I mean, I looked at like the net effect on like our net worth, and it's like $200 a month on the loan pay down, and then the appreciation is like at least $5,000 a year, on average for the next 20 or 30 years.
That's great.
And that's right now. Like, and it'll become more and more as it gets more and more valuable. It's like exponential curves.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, it's like we see $800 a month now, but it's like I want to hold this thing because the net effect is like $1,500 a month.
Mm-hmm. Dude, 15
but
years.
You don't
from now,
see all of that. You see $800 a month.
Yeah.
On average, like in the off season, we break even or make a couple hundred. So anyway, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Thanks for sharing. One thing I was thinking about as well is when it comes to Airbnb properties that you're owning, is some people will sell their property as like, hey, this is already a successful short-term rental, and then they can sell it for like much more. And it's like, hey, we're already having success with it. And it's like, I've seen it go up like $50,000 just because they're like, hey, it's already like turnkey. We've got all the furniture in there. We'll show you how to do it. And it's like, I've seen it sell from like $50,000 to even like $75,000 more than like what it would typically go for. Just because they can say like, hey, here's what it is. I'll show you how to get it working.
Here are the books.
Yeah.
Like here's our last 2 years tax returns.
I wish I could sometimes I wish I could take my listing and sell it, because the listing is what's really valuable. Yeah. And like, I don't think this will ever become a thing. If it does, that would be awesome. Like if I have like a listing that has 200 like reviews of like 4.95 rating, like that is worth a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because you're already like, if you have those kind of reviews and you have that many, you're gonna show up on the first page of Airbnb.
Yeah.
So it's like here's a turnkey that shows up on the first page of Airbnb. It's like, boom.
Whenever we tell people about our property, they're like, oh, I want to see it, Yeah. And they look on Airbnb, and ours is literally like top 3 almost every time.
Fuck yes.
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's like, man, this really helps. And because I've been like cranking the prices this summer some.
Nice.
And it's just like we had 77% occupancy for 365 days, and I'm hoping to increase that even a little more now.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like I did the math, like when I ran the numbers, and I was like, here's the worst case scenario based off of the numbers that our real estate agent gave us. Like worst case scenario, we bring in like 22 to 24,000 in gross revenue per year. And I think we were like scraping, like just breaking even at that point. And I was like, best case scenario, like 37 or maybe 40, I think is what I put in. And I was like, I'm guessing we're going to do 30. So I'm very
pleased. You said like 33?
32.7, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what we did in our first 365 days. Now there's a lot of competition like on Airbnb now. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
every time I look, there's like multiple new Airbnbs that look pretty good.
Oh yeah, people are
Not
getting
just
into
like
it.
cell phone pictures, which is awesome. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm so happy more people are getting online.
Yeah.
It's just getting more and more competitive, and I think the shitty Airbnb hosts are going to get pushed off the
Oh,
platform because they're not going to be able to make money, and the ones that are actually doing well are just going to continue to do well.
Yeah, exactly. The algorithm knows that. You know, it knows guest experience and your ratings and your pricing and your click-through rate and like the velocity. Like you look at all those things, it's like it knows. It knows which ones are producing and which ones aren't. So and it gives us the first fruits. So, but anyway, I forget where I was going with that. But
you're good. I'm gonna take it a little bit different. So I always want to ask. So we've been talking about your journey so far and kind of what you've been making. I want to talk about like what are your plans for the future, and do you plan on? I know we've talked personally a lot about like you getting into rental arbitrage, but it's not something you're wanting to pull the trigger on just because you like having the appreciation and stuff like that. What are your plans for the next couple of years with Airbnb?
well, when I figure that out, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
No, it's kind of fluid for us, you know, because I teach high school now, and that's like a pretty full-time job, especially from August to May. We're filming this in June now, so it's nice. I have a lot more freedom.
I've seen you
with
twice
my
in like the
time.
past.
I know,
month,
right?
yeah.
And I'm like full of energy. And
Yeah.
not like, so yeah, we're not really sure. Like it's just been a crazy year for us. I've had multiple people approach me about like going into business together. Like you've even offered like, hey, like I'd love to do this, and I'm like, man, that sounds amazing. Like not now, you know. It's a no for now, not no forever. Maybe no forever. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I've had, which is great. You know, I feel like that's a good feedback. You know, that multiple
that's great.
people are coming to you like, hey, I want to do business with you because I think we'll do well together. You know, and I trust you and all that. But yeah, I think like for now, the next couple steps are kind of clear for us. We do want to get eventually a lakefront property at Indian Lake.
Oh, so double down in that location.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We are just convinced, like I look at some of the numbers on the lakefront properties, like what they're charging per night. And yeah, but we're looking at like some of the lakefront properties, you know, $300, $400, $500, $600 a night in the you know, during the peak season. And I'm like, man, I don't know. And what I need to decide is what kind of property are we going to get? Like, are we going to go for like $1 million, like really nice that cash flows in the summer and then just like eats cash in the off season, you know? Because like, I'm sure I can rent this out long term, but like, who's looking to drop, you know, $4,500 a month for a 2 or 3 bedroom on the lake in the middle of nowhere, Ohio? Maybe there are people. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But anyway, so I'm kind of we're looking at like a lakefront. There actually is a property that I kind of have my eyes on now that I want to inquire about, like with the owner. It's kind of weird. It's on a little island. And by little island, I literally mean there's 3 houses, and I don't know if this is man-made or if this island actually existed apart from us building on it.
Nice.
Not us, but you know, humans.
Yeah.
Cultivating
Us
the
as
ground.
a species.
Yes. Us as a species. But it's like 2 or 3 bedroom, I forget, and the listing price is like $425. The one next to it was owned by the same guy, and he just sold it recently for like $384. So I'm like, ooh. So I could probably get this thing for under $400. The financing is just a nightmare because it's like, and by that I just mean interest rates are so high right now. You know, I'm like looking at like 7% maybe. Like if I buy down my investment rate a little bit. Like I have a lot of home equity that I can tap. Like we're paying the home equity down right now because that debt is at like 8.4%. And yeah, so, and I'm waiting for my student loans to get forgiven, not by the federal Biden thing, but just, I'm in a program like public servant loan forgiveness. Yeah. So I taught for 10 years and they're going to forgive my loans in January, regardless of whatever happens with the loan forgiveness with
That's
Biden.
such a good deal.
Yeah, it's great.
Pays off that PhD real quick.
Yeah, the PhD. I love you said I have a PhD. Just a master's, people. I don't know why I'm doing the Trump thing. But it was a great degree, one of the best.
I thought it was a PhD. That's my bad.
No.
Misquoted.
No. But anyway.
I didn't catch how many bedrooms. How many bedrooms did you say it was?
Yeah, so I can't remember if it's 2 or 3.
Okay.
But this one's nice because and I'll show it to you.
Please.
I just pulled up right now.
Yeah.
It's got, and it's on Airbnb, and it says it does $369 per night, like in the peak season. But I literally just want to message the owner and be like, hey, like, can I see some of your numbers? I'm like kind of interested in this property.
Do it.
The problem is it's like on an island and there's not much parking, but this property has the lion's share of the available like gravel for parking. The other two, not so much.
Okay.
So
we'll put this in the show notes for the people watching the video.
Let me pull it up here, and we can pull it up on the video.
I've thought about that a couple of times. There's been some properties where I was like, man, this property has so much potential, and I want to just even co-host it. Because it's like, if I can see a property that can net $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, and I can make 20% of that, that'd be like fucking $6,000 a month just for co-hosting it. There's a property out in Napa Valley where I just want to book it for the night and be like, hey, this is me just paying to get your contact number. And then I just call them up.
Yeah.
It's like $1,000 just to make a phone call.
Hey, yeah. That tells them how serious you are.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm looking this up. I tried for it October, but they might have that closed off.
You might have to deal with no dates.
Indian. Yeah, how do you search without dates?
You just hit the little X at the top.
Search. And of course, it's not showing up now.
Maybe they sold it. They took it down.
Here it is. 369. Yeah, so we'll just put it right there and you can swipe through. Yeah, so.
Nice, 5.0. So
yeah,
this is the one that's listed for sale.
Yeah, this property is actually for sale and it is used on Airbnb.
Nice.
And it looks pretty good. Like we could definitely make it better.
Man, it's literally right there on the lake.
Yeah, it's got like 40 or 50 feet there. View right out onto the lake.
I went 6 pictures deep, and I just went to the 7th and finally saw the inside.
Yeah.
The kitchen's pretty bare.
Yeah.
But when it's just like such a good location, I always think of that it's like there's 4 things that pull on the like 4 levers when it comes to Airbnb.
Yeah.
That get to justify like what you charge. First is location. So like, where's it at? Like, you could have the most beautiful property ever, but if it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or you could have, location, design is the other one. So like, how's it designed? What's it look like inside?
Yeah.
Because you can have really good design places. We've seen like in like Hawking Hills, Ohio, which is just like a hiking spot. They have incredibly designed places like A-frames. They're charging $800, $900, $1,000 a night. And then you have guest experience, which is the third one. So guest experience is just like how are the reviews? How's like the actual check-in process look like? What are they doing for the guests to go above and beyond? And then the fourth one is just the actual physical, like the actual cost. But I found like these first 3 really influence this last one.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have if you're knocking out in the first 3 categories, you can charge whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
Like if it's incredible location, incredible design, incredible guest experience, then it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go charge $200 more than everybody else in my market and get like booked consistently.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that Hocking Hills property you're talking about, that was the one you showed me, and we can link that one in the notes too.
Yep.
I mean, you just look at it and it is a work of art.
Dude.
And it's really
So
not,
good.
like you look at it and you're like, oh, I could never do that. But if you actually just look at it, like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Like it's wood floors and like windows, that let a lot of light in. Like that's why I think it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Like you could probably build for $500,000 or $700,000 an A-frame cabin like that just prints money.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're doing $25,000 a month, and what I love, and this is like, I love like the whole supply and demand thing is like they open their calendars one day out of the year, and they just book out for like 6 months at a time. And then they open it again.
Do they like announce when they're opening it?
Yeah, they have an Instagram page. I follow them on Instagram, and they're just like, hey, we're opening up our books this weekend. they'll book it out for like next year. Like they'll book out 6 to 12. I said 6 months, but it's really like 6 to 12
So like they could charge even more if they wanted to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah. So anyway,
this lake property.
Yeah. So this place we've been looking at, and if we can make the parking work, I think we could probably make it work. I don't think I'm quite ready to buy yet because I still need to get my loans forgiven, and that happens in January. But that's kind of where we're headed. We'd love to get something lakefront that's under like 600, because a lot of the properties up there are 600. I'm thinking like you could even build up, like extend a little bit and make a little deck. The place next door has a like extendable deck, and it just looks incredible. So
yeah, it has a great foundation to start with. Like I can tell it's like an older person that got this place together, just because like it kind of has like that grandma furniture vibe to it.
Yeah.
But like if you were to go in there,
you just modernize it a little bit.
Yeah, modernize it, and dude, put some kayaks and stuff on there.
Yep.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, just put them right there, and you can put a boat there too.
Good job, David.
You can just dock a boat right there. So I'm gonna reach out to David soon here and be like, hey, show me your. You say this rents out for $369.
Show me what you got.
Show me the money.
Is it $369? Okay, yeah, so 300 during the
probably
week.
The weekends.
Weekends, yeah.
Is that $369?
It looks like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 all weekends booked in August.
Wow.
And then a couple weekdays. So yeah, he's at least 8 days booked. Actually, at least 12 days booked. 12 times, we'll call it 350. You're the math guy, whatever that is.
4,200.
4,200, yeah.
Yeah. And that would definitely cover the mortgage.
Definitely.
Like for a place like that, I have to put 20% down. Yeah, so for a place like that, I'd have to put 20% down. I might have some of that cash available. I might have to tap my home equity line of credit at 8.4%.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the mortgage itself would be at 7 whatever, and then that home equity would be at 8.4. But I mean, if the place brings in 50 grand a year in gross revenue, which I think would do more than that.
Yeah.
It would pay for itself.
I can see you doing like 64 even.
Yeah, like per month.
No, like 64,000 for the year.
64,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be like 5,000 a month. Yeah, and like that totally pays for itself and quite a bit.
Yeah.
I forget the number, but a $400,000 place, and the property taxes aren't that high in this township. So I think it's maybe $2,500, $3,000 a month. So.
Nice.
And again, it's like if I could just cash flow like $500 a month on average, like I think I'd feel pretty comfortable. Like, because I'm a little more conservative. Like I want to have a lot more margin. My wife and I have a 15-year mortgage on our primary residence. Partly because the interest rate was stupid low when we refinanced back in 2021. Yeah, we locked in at 1.75%.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's something worth bragging about.
But yeah, so like, and even that is like. Even we might even qualify for like Dave Ramsey's like super, like you should never take out debt ever, but if you do, make sure you can pay it back in 4 minutes.
Yeah. He doesn't like Airbnb. He thinks it's a terrible investment.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of his stuff.
I've never disagreed with someone like so hard. I'm just like, dude, you're just wrong. Like,
Yeah, one of his shorts that I listened to, he was talking about how, it's going to be a headache and so much work for you, and it's like, I'm sure it is for some people, but if you're doing it well, it's not that bad.
Yeah. The trick is just like, have the systems in place.
Yeah.
It's like, if this happens, then do this.
Yeah.
And before this happens, do that. So.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's kind of what your future's looking like with.
Yeah, we love, and I would kind of lean more toward kind of entrepreneurial stuff, like owning and running businesses. My wife's not super interested in that, so we're kind of at an impasse right now, just trying to figure out like how to navigate that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And yeah, that's hard. It's like we're personality just very different. Which is awesome in some sense, but it's also kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah,
you're like,
it's a partnership,
It is, and I'm not just going to go do something. I can't just go do something. Like I need to take my entire family into consideration. So it feels like each passing year I'm driving a bigger and bigger boat, and it's like we can move the boat and turn and shift course, but it's not a speedboat. It's starting to get turning into a cruise ship. So it takes time and. it's not easy. You can still do it, but it just takes time. And
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're playing a great game with it. I think you're very conservative with your movements, and it's like you analyze it so many times before you even take that like first step into doing it, which is I think is great. For me, I know I've pulled back a lot, but like I guess you have 2 kids and a wife. Like for me, for the longest time, I was just like some single 20 something guy.
Oh man.
So I'm like, oh okay, like all my money that I have in my savings account for this Airbnb, sure, let's do it. Like whatever. YOLO. Dude,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. And it's just like, but like at the same time, like there's so much to learn. Like I think I told you before, I never even put washcloths in my first Airbnb just because I was like, I didn't fucking know, and I just like sent it.
You guys, if you have not like watched Dylan's curriculum, and I know you've updated it recently, but like that was another thing for me when I was going through the curriculum.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching the first like couple weeks. You were just like really frank and honest about some of the things you learned along the way.
Oh dude.
And I was like, gosh, if Dylan, like who doesn't even provide like washcloths, like can do this and absolutely crush it, I was like, it just gave me a lot of confidence. Like I can do this too. You know? Like you don't need to be some wizard who's amazing at working with people and super skilled in business. Like
Dude,
it's not that hard.
Yeah, I cannot emphasize that more to people listening at home. It's like I'm not that smart. Like I graduated high school with a 2.3. I failed out of college like in an undecided major, and I got a job at AT&T like just working there because it was just like my only option. I was like, all right, I got to pay bills. And it's like, but then I like stumbled in Airbnb. Like when I started with Airbnb, like I didn't even know how to buy a house. I didn't even know what it was like to buy a house. I didn't know you had to put like money down on a house or like any type of loan things. Like I didn't know shit about shit. I was just like, all right, if I pay rent, I can list it and then make money. That's literally, I was just like, I was like, I've got the sweat equity. I was like, I've been to the thrift store. Like I'll just go buy everything from a thrift store. Bought everything off of Facebook Marketplace secondhand, which I don't recommend doing, so don't do that. But yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna do it. I had to bite the bullet because I just quit my job and I was like doing these daily enchantments like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an Airbnb host, and I like felt like the biggest failure because like I didn't have money to pay these places because like I was fucking up, right? But yeah, then I had to get a job at like the Taste of Belgium, which is like a coffee shop.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
And but it turned out to be like just to cover like my rent and stuff like that. But then things slowly started to get better, and that job actually helped me so much in my Airbnb career because then I could start. I was meeting with the different business people that were coming in. And that's I made those connections like, hey, I will host your employees that are coming and traveling to the city.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like the theater company that was right next door to the coffee shop had actors coming in all the time. So I was like, hey, your actors come in for a couple months at a time. Why don't they come and stay in my property instead of staying at the hotels? They were paying $150 a night to stay in a hotel. Like for entire for months.
And you would gladly host them for like 90.
Exactly, dude. That's the exact price I charged. I was like, I'll do it for 90. Like no sweat. Like
that's $2,700 a month.
Yeah,
and rent's 15, 12 at that point.
It was only 12. Yeah.
Oh my
so I was pocketing 15, and they were paying me in full. So paying me for 3 months up front for their 3 month stay, so 27 times 3.
Yeah, $8,100.
$8,100. I remember when I got that first $8,100 check from the theater company. I was like,
"Is this real?"
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it felt so good." But anyways, yeah. So that's if you're worried about like, am I gonna be able to make it as an Airbnb host? If you're like, I've been there. Like I know what it's like. It's like you can get through it, but
wow.
So, yeah, I don't think I've ever told you about that. So yeah, it was rough. I just had to like bite the bullet, and I was just like, well, let's just do it. So
yeah,
I don't even know how we got on that. Sorry, I went off the tangent there. I was just really excited to share that.
Yeah, no, that's good.
All right, John. So final question here. So I want to be respectful of your time today. Is what would your advice be for anybody that's getting into Airbnb or is new to Airbnb, is wanting to start their first Airbnb? What would be your advice for them?
Oh man, advice for somebody getting started. I would say and this is, you'll hear this a lot, like if you listen to Bigger Pockets or other podcasts, and I've already said it basically, but there is a part of you that is afraid and fearful because of the unknown. And part of having that success and doing what you want to do is just moving past that. Like, you have to jump. You can analyze stuff all day, and I did, and the numbers checked out and everything looked good, and I was like, there is no logical reason not to do this. Like, I literally have no more logical reasons to not do this. Like, I'm just weirdly scared, and I couldn't even like tell you why. Like, well, what are you scared about? Like, well, what if it, like, you already answered that question. What if it doesn't make money? Like, even in the worst case scenario, like, you're still gonna do pretty well. And then you own the property. Like, you can just sell it.
Yeah.
Like, if you put $30,000 into it, you'll probably get at least that much back. Like, the property looks really nice now, you know, so you just have to jump. Like, you have to do it. And it's scary, but, and this is kind of a life principle too, the more you take those like leaps of faith, and it's hard to even call them leaps of faith because it's like, really, there's not a whole lot of faith here. I mean, it is moving into the unknown, but like, you've analyzed everything.
It's very
like,
calculated.
Barring anything crazy, it should work, you know? Like, it would be much weirder if it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, like if you and I met somebody who had a terrible experience, we'd be like, wow, that's a bummer. Like, that is very rare for what you just described to happen to people. Like, that's not very common. Yeah. And it does happen, but yeah, so I would just say, sorry, it's super long-winded, but you just have to do it. And like, you're not gonna, that feeling in your gut of like, ooh, is not gonna go away. And it's never gonna go away. Like, in business, I still have it, you know? Like,
I'm
when
still
I
scared
talk to people,
I'm still scared shitless in business, and I'm 5-6 years deep now.
like, we would approach people. We did some video recording today on campus, and every time I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, you know, like that little thing. It's not much. Like, it used to be a lot worse for me, but you still feel it, and you just have to like lean into that that fear and whatever that opposition is, because it's not really rational.
Absolutely. It's
some buried latent emotional stuff that you just are not going to overcome.
Yeah, it's your brain trying to protect you, and it's like it's okay. I'm not getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Yeah, like, I'm just trying to do an investment, and if I fail, that's okay. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of things that I learn along the way. So
and that's not to say just go and do crazy stuff. Like, don't worry about the numbers. Like, no, do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And run everything, and then take a chance. Like, you have to take a risk. Like, I tell you what, man, when we went to Fifth Third that morning at closing and wired $27,435.53. Not to be exact. But when we wired that money, I was like almost shaking.
Dude, I
like walked in. I walked in and was like, and they were like, hey, what can we do for you? And I was like, we need to wire money. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna think I'm like stealing something, or I've like never wired money before. And they like had us fill out this form, like, do you know who you're sending this to? What is this for? You know? So and I'm like, okay. And the banker was just sitting there talking to us, like real nonchalant at like 9-10 a.m. And he's like, oh, that's great. Yeah, like my folks have a place up at Indian Lake. Hey, Mark, we're going to go ahead and send this through. Yep. All right. Close it. He's like, can I do anything else for you guys? And I was like, what? It took like 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. And they just wired like 27 grand. Like that. Like it was nothing. Yep. And I was like, no. Like, do we need anything else?
You leave.
No, we're good.
It's weird when you send money, like so much money, and then you don't have anything tangible like to like take with you, or there's like no documents or anything like that. I'm sure they give you some type of like receipt, right? But it's like maybe they didn't, but it's like still it's like you're like, where is the thing that because like money is like a transfer of like almost like energy, right? Because you're like, I'm giving you this for something in return, and you're like, fuck, where's my...
I do have to say, like, we went to closing and signed everything. And then, like, we got the keys, and I took the day off work because it was like a Monday. And I teach high school. and we went and checked the property out. My wife had never actually seen it. Like, I saw it in person. She was like, I trust you, all that stuff. And we walked in and she was like, whoa, this is like even bigger than I thought it was.
Nice.
And I was like, that's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah. It's always a good sign.
And so, let me tell you though, that feeling when we were there, and it was like, this is mine.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can do whatever I want to this property. And like, I have the creative freedom. It almost felt like, in a weird way, like an art project.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, you call your thing the art of B&B, It's like, it really is like, it scratches that creative itch that we have.
Absolutely. So. You can express yourself like design wise and express yourself however you want in the space.
Right.
And it's like, you get that feeling like when you go to your friend's house, like you get a feel for like what that person's life is. And it's like, you can deliver like a really good welcoming feeling to the people that are walking through the door. So the museum effect is what I call it. So
So anyway, sorry, that was super long-winded.
No, you're good. I appreciate it.
But yeah, I would say you got to just get started, do some diligence and research, make sure you know what you're getting into. But at some point, you're just gonna have to jump.
You just gotta fucking do it.
And you just gotta jump. And like, stop listening to podcasts and like, oh, if I just learn
Except for this one.
Understand a little more. No, yes, keep listening to this one. But I mean, in that sense of like, you need to go and take action.
Yeah.
Like another podcast, another Excel spreadsheet number crunching session, another meeting with your therapist is not going to like push you through that fog and that fear that you feel. You have to just do it.
Yeah.
And we can't do it for you. You know, like, you have to do it for yourself. When you do that, you'll come out on the other side with a little more boldness, a little more confidence. And if you just keep doing that, like, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I think you're hitting it right on the head. It's like, I think something people also don't do is they don't analyze, because they're analyzing the cost of them taking action and what are the risk if something were to happen. But, figure out, it's like, if this was just a base hit, how would it do, right? And it's like, if this is just a base hit, cool, we're good. But another thing people don't do is they don't analyze the cost of inaction. It's like, what if you just keep doing what you're doing for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you don't take action on like these things that you're wanting to pursue in your life? Like, you are going to be fucked in a few years. And it's like, we've gone over like fear setting before and you've seen it. It's like, dude, go do it. Like, you have nothing, like, the only thing worth fearing is fear itself, I think so. Yeah,
and I sat down and like wrote out all my fears, like the cons, and I like laughed.
Really?
Literally at
you
the
did
end
the fear
of it,
setting?
I laughed and was like,
oh, it's great.
Why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
Like, there's no logical reason. Like, there's something in my gut that's like, oh, I'm like terrified to do this because, I don't know, this is going to get a little deep here, but I think for a lot of people, it's an identity thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm like, I'm not an Airbnb host. I'm not a real estate investor, and it's like, it's where that phrase comes from, like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And I think you, in a sense, have to do that. I don't know if I'm in love with that phrase, but I think the idea that it's capturing is important. Like, you are going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel a little bit like a fraud for a little bit or maybe a long time. And that's okay. Like, you're figuring it out. Nobody just came out of the womb. You think about that? Like, you ever think about that? Like, Jeff Bezos did not come out of the womb, like, having owned Amazon for 20 years. The dude was a baby. And he was a kid. Yeah. And then he had to learn stuff. And then he built his company. It's like, you don't need to know everything.
Yeah, it's like...
at the start. And I think what you said was perfect. Like, the cost of inaction.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm like, if we had started 3 years ago, like, we would probably already have, well, maybe not yet because of my student loans. That's a lot. Oh, yeah. But, we would be better poised, from having more cash on hand ready to go, So, yeah, every time you don't take action, that has a cost too. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening to this at home, like, just do it. Like, overcome your fears. It's going to make it so much easier.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to touch on, then we'll wrap it up from here, is you said something about identity. And I think identity is so important because it's like we don't ever want to go against our identity because it's like there's a phrase that goes around. It's like, think of your identity as like a thermostat, and it's like, if you're on fire and you're just crushing it, like, your thermostat starts to go up. But it's like, if your identity is here, but it's like what you're wanting to achieve is up here, then it's like your thermostat is just like eventually going to pull you back to equilibrium.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to go here. And I know for me, that was a big thing. I had like imposter syndrome when I first started. I remember I was doing Uber Eats also before I started my Airbnb, so before I got it, and it was like April 14th, and I got my very first Airbnb on May 1st, so like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was like, I'm just gonna do like incantations. I know people were talking about those. I was like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna do it. So I drove for like 4 hours doing Uber Eats, and the entire time, those entire 4 hours, wasn't listening to music or anything. I just said, on May 1st, I will have my first Airbnb. And I did that for no lie, 4 hours straight till like I couldn't speak.
And you like really came to believe it.
Oh,
At a certain point, you're like, maybe not one definite moment, but you're kind of like, yeah, I am gonna do this, you know?
Absolutely. I know for some people that they don't like the idea of that, and it's like, I always like to think of it, Alex Hormozy talks about this. He's like, if you can do one single thing that proves that you're a part of that identity, then you are that identity. Like you can justify it. So it's like,
right.
You want to be an Airbnb host? Cool. Go right now and create your Airbnb account. Like just set it up. It takes 10 minutes. Cool. You're now an Airbnb host. You don't have your first property yet, but you're an Airbnb host.
Yeah.
It's like, when is a painter a painter? Is a painter a painter when they've gone and put their first painting in a museum? Or they are a painter when they've picked up the paintbrush and they're staring at a blank canvas? Because it's like that identity shift has to be. It could even be before that. It's like you can shift it like, I'm a painter now. Boom, let me go to the store. And then you just kind of like reverse engineer. Okay, if I'm a painter, what does a painter do? If I'm an Airbnb host, what do I do? Well, if I'm an Airbnb host, I should have a property. Okay, I don't have a property yet. Let me go get one. But I'm an Airbnb host now. Let me go for that. So yeah. I love that you touched on identity. I think that's a huge thing in business that a lot of people don't talk about. So.
Yeah, and you see it like when we interview people around town. We're like, have you ever thought about doing that? And they're like, no. They're like, it's like foreign for them. Like it would take a lot to break through even that. Like, have you ever thought that you could do it? I think a lot of people haven't even thought about it. Then they've got to overcome the identity thing, and it's like, man.
That's a whole rabbit hole we go down. It's like they're adopting their identities that like weren't even like their choice, and it's like the beliefs that have like bestowed upon them from like their parents or the people they surround themselves with or the people they're seeking validation from. But that's another podcast. So.
Yes.
John, this has been great. Thank you for being the numero uno on the Art of B&B podcast.
Yeah.
So,
thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you guys haven't already, click the like button, smash it for us. Also subscribe. We'll have more interviews coming, as well as plenty of things to help you along your Airbnb journey. With that, get out there and start hosting. Don't let fear stop you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.